Most of us treat our painful thoughts like enemies we have to fight or distract ourselves from. But what if that thought, the one telling you you aren't good enough, or that you need to change your body in order to be happy, is actually a doorway to the peace that you've been looking for? In last week's episode, we explored how your negative emotions are actually your inner wisdom, your emotional guidance system. But today we're moving from the why to the how, and I'm going to walk you through one of my favorite tools that brings an end to suffering, a 4-question process called the work, developed by Byron Katie. We're going to take a belief that many women have: I need to lose weight in order to feel confident, and put it to the test to see if it's actually true. By the end of this episode, you'll have a repeatable tool you can use to question any stressful belief you have about your body or yourself. If you're new here, I'm Christina Bruce, a body, peace, and self-trust coach. And this is Unlearning Beautiful, where we explore a new way of relating to your body, your emotions, and yourself so you can live more freely and peacefully in the body that you have right now. Let's get started. Last week's episode, we talked about how painful emotions aren't actually a problem. Our inner wisdom is alerting to us that pain is a signal that's saying how we're perceiving our body right now, how we're perceiving the circumstance or situation is not actually the whole truth. There's some misalignment there. And today, in this episode, I want to give you a practical way to hear the wisdom that's underneath that fear. We're going to look at a super common belief, one that I'm sure you might even have, which is, I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. That can feel so true, especially if you've actually experienced it to be true on some level. Maybe you did lose some weight and then you did feel confident. But you might also have had the experience where you lost weight and you still weren't confident. I know that was my experience. My experience of that belief is that confidence as the result of weight loss or having some kind of external change is temporary. Or it's at least something that you need to maintain and grasp and hold on to, because if you gain the weight, then there goes your confidence with it. And that's why it feels so necessary. It's why people are spending so much time, energy, money, and focus to make sure that their weight stays a certain way that they can't, quote unquote, let go. Because it feels too unbearable. Because who wants to not feel confident? Who wants to feel less than? Nobody does. But when we have this belief that says, my confidence is tied to my weight, is tied to my appearance, then it's going to feel like we need to have a smaller body in order to feel confident. But what we're going to do is we're going to question that today. Because if you notice, I need to lose weight in order to feel confident, does that feel peaceful, or does that thought feel stressful? Is there some kind of grip or contraction to it? I'm going to guess it doesn't feel ease and peaceful and like, oh yes, everything's okay. Say it again to yourself. I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. I feel a tension in that. I could feel a little contraction in my stomach. I feel a little bit of, oof, I got to do something about this. That's a signal. That's stress. Anytime we're feeling stress, anytime we're feeling contraction, anytime we're feeling fear, what we might call a negative emotion, that is actually an opportunity. It's a doorway that we can walk through to start to see things differently. That doesn't require us to lose the weight in order to feel confident, that we can actually start to feel confident right here, right now, but we need a perspective shift. But it's not something that you can force yourself to change. It's not something that you can force yourself to believe. In fact, you might even intellectually know on some level, yeah, I guess I don't really need to lose weight to feel confident, but it still really kind of feels that way. On some level, it's like, but yeah, I still do think I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. So if that is the case for you, then this particular episode is going to be really impactful. But what I'm sharing here can be applied to anything. So if this belief isn't one that's really strong for you, stay with me. Let's follow through the process because you're going to be able to apply this to anything. And it's going to be, I think, really interesting what you might notice. So I just want to start by sharing how I came across this method. This is called the work, and it's taught by a spiritual teacher named Byron Katie. And finding the work in Byron Katie was a massive catalyst for me in my own spiritual awakening, in my own personal growth. It really shifted things for me. I had a visceral experience that something is different, that I really can feel relief. I'll even just kind of give you a little story of how this happened. I had bought her original book, Loving What Is, and it was on my bookshelf. I remember I had started reading it, but just couldn't really get into it. And so I put it away on my bookshelf. And then I don't know how much time had passed. It had to have been at least a year, maybe two. I had just gone through a breakup. I was feeling really down and I was home by myself, and I just walked over to my bookshelf and I looked to see what was on there. And I thought, I'm going to give this book a try again. And I pulled it off my shelf and I opened it up and I started reading. And it was like this explosion went off in my head. I actually decided at that point, because I just broke up with my boyfriend, I was looking to go on a retreat. And then I knew, okay, does this woman have a retreat? Does Byron Katie have a retreat? Because if she does, I'm there. And so I looked and I saw that at that time she was running her 9-day school for the work. And I knew that that's where I needed to be. I went and I spent 9 days doing a very deep dive of the work over that time. And I actually went back again to the school because I wanted more of it. So I actually did this school for the work 2 times. That's how powerful it was for me. So I found that this process helped me to really see that there is a different place that I can experience life from. Rather than the story and the lens in my mind, I can experience it from a different place. And that's what the work helps you to do. Now, Byron Katie will always say, the work requires an open mind. That means we have to be willing to be open that what we believe to be so true might not be true. And so she also says it takes courage to do this. It takes courage to inquire into everything that we have held so true that we might have believed is just reality, and to shake it up, because it could feel like we're pulling the rug out from underneath us. What we thought was a solid foundation maybe isn't. Now, this is really worth doing if that solid foundation is causing you stress, is causing you pain, is unhelpful. And that's usually the point that we need to get to in order to be open to doing this kind of work, to doing this exploration, is the pain and the suffering has to become too much. It has to become so great that we're going to look for relief in a place that we haven't found it before. Because certainly if you're here, I'm going to guess you've been looking for relief in trying to lose weight, in your appearance, of making yourself better, of improving yourself, and you've experienced temporary success with it. But it's something that is like a hamster wheel. You have to constantly be on it. You can't get off it. There's no relief. There's no relaxing, maybe just for a moment, but then you got to get back on again. So if you're really done with suffering, like if you just don't want to be living in this mental, emotional pain anymore, then you very much could be ready for this tool that I'm going to share with you. The work is an inquiry. Byron Katie would say it's actually a meditation. So when I walk you through this, this isn't an intellectual exercise. You're not trying to find the right answer. You're actually listening to the answer within you, to what arises, to what actually feels true. And the best way to do this is to be completely honest with yourself. It doesn't help to hide in this work. It doesn't help to say, oh, I know what the answer is. What actually works is to really get honest and say, what is it that I'm really believing? What is it that I'm really thinking? And let that be enough. And sometimes my clients will not want to actually admit or share what they've been thinking. And what I always say is, I promise you there's nothing that you can say that probably I haven't already thought and that many, many other people are also thinking. Byron Katie will say that all thoughts are recycled. So we often will feel like how we're thinking about ourselves, how we're thinking about our body is just ours. Oh, this is how I think about myself. And yet I know this from working with so many clients and hearing them share what's actually going on inside. It's not just yours. So the work is very simple. It's 4 questions and what are called turnarounds. I'm going to walk you through this exercise. And as you're doing this, I want you to just answer these questions for yourself and notice what is true. Normally, when we do the work, we look at a specific situation. We're just going to go kind of general here. So we're going to look at this common thought. I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. The very first question that we ask has only a yes or no response. So your answer to this question is either yes or no. The first question is it true? I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. Is that true? And then just notice what honestly, authentically feels true for you. It's either yes or it's either no. And one is not better than the other. There's no shame in saying yes. It's just what is. So be honest. I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. Is that true? Yes or no? Okay, you have the answer for yourself. Now we're going to go on to the next question. And again, the answer is either yes or no. Can I absolutely know that it's true that I need to lose weight in order to feel confident? Now notice what comes up for you, yes or no. Can I absolutely know that it's true that I need to lose weight in order to feel confident? Okay, you have your answer? All right, now we're going to move on to the third question. How do I react? What happens when I believe the thought that I need to lose weight in order to feel confident? This is where you're going to start to notice what happens for you internally. When you have that thought, how does it feel? Do you feel stressed? Do you feel tense? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel a little nervous? Do you feel sad? There's no right or wrong. You're just noticing what is going on inside of me when I have this thought, I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. Also start to notice what are the physical sensations. I notice when I think that thought, I can feel immediately a tightness in my stomach. There's a little bit of a uh-oh feeling. Notice what is it like for you? What physical sensations do you notice? Sometimes it can feel like your heart starts to increase or you feel a little pressure in your chest. How do I react? What happens when I think the thought, I need to lose weight in order to feel confident? Something else you can start to notice, are there any images that come into your mind when you have that thought? Do you start to remember past times when you had lost weight and you felt confident? Or you might even have memories of having lost weight and not feeling confident. You might start to have images pop into your mind of what might it look like for me to lose weight now? Like, what do I need to do? You might go into planning mode. Notice if there's any past or future images that appear in your mind when you have the thought, I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. Okay, now notice, how are you treating yourself? Is there an internal dialogue that's going in your head? Are you beating yourself because you're not thin enough? Beating yourself up. Are you telling yourself that you're a failure? Are you thinking you're less than? Start to notice, how am I being with myself when I have this thought? And then notice, how are you around other people? So if you're in the body that you're in right now, which according to this thought says is not thin enough, and you're not feeling confident, how are you around other people? Are you a little bit more reserved? Are you a bit more shy? Do you notice yourself comparing yourself? Start to reflect. Now, the best way that you can do the work is actually to write out your answers. So you might be listening to this when you're walking or driving. That's fine. You can still do this and reflect it for yourself as we're talking. I'm kind of facilitating you through it, so it helps. But if you were answering these questions on your own, write it down, because the mind is so flighty. It's hard to kind of hold it. When you get it on paper, it contains it better. All right. So you're asking yourself this, how do I react? What happens when I have this thought? I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. Okay. So you can go through that to the extent that you want to feel like you flush it out. You feel like you've seen all the ways that you react and what's going on for you. Now that brings us to the fourth question. And this one, people tend to have a little bit more of a tougher time with. I know certainly I did when I was newer to the work. I would struggle with this a bit. So this is the question. Who would I be in this moment without the thought that I need to lose weight in order to feel confident? Imagine that thought never came into your mind. You didn't have it. It was impossible to think it. Who would you be without the thought that I need to lose weight in order to feel confident? And sit with it. This is where it takes a little bit of a meditation. You might need to actually really contemplate and notice, how would you be feeling? You might even just close your eyes. And if you're driving, of course, don't. But I often find doing this process is best with your eyes closed so that you can really go in and notice and observe. You might notice that you feel more neutral. Maybe you notice more of a peace. Maybe you feel confident. Maybe you just feel okay. There's nothing to fix. I feel fine. And then notice how you're being with yourself without that thought. Are you kinder? Are you more loving to yourself? Are you more appreciative of yourself? Notice how you're being with other people if you didn't have that thought. Would you be more open? Would you be more engaging? Would you put yourself out there more? A lot of people, like I said, will say, oh, I don't know, I really have trouble seeing what it would be like. And this is where I say, imagine it. If I didn't have this thought, how would I be? And then notice. This is really powerful. And this is a real key part of this process. And this is what really changed things for me, was I got to see and have a totally different experience of myself and of my situation and of my relationships, of what it's like when this thought is present and when it's not. And when it's not, doesn't it feel better? Doesn't it feel better when that thought, I need to lose weight in order to feel confident, isn't there? Yeah, because that thought is stressful. When it's not there, it alleviates that stress. And notice that you're still you and you're able to be in a totally different way. That's the first part of this process. And it's important to go through that part because we need to be able to give the mind the opportunity to really share what's going on with it. We need to listen to it, have that relationship with it, and really explore with the thought, without the thought. We don't want to skip any of those questions. Now, the next part is what are called the turnarounds. And this is where it can get a little bit trickier, especially if you're new to this. That's why it can be really helpful to be facilitated by somebody who has a lot of experience with the work because it can help with this. We're going to take the original statement and we're going to turn it around and look for some examples. The original statement is, I need to lose weight in order to feel confident. One turnaround would be, I don't need to lose weight in order to feel confident. And what I want you to do now is reflect on what are some examples that I can find that is genuinely true or truer than the original statement. I don't need to lose weight in order to feel confident. How could that be true? You might look and notice, has there ever been a time that I felt confident in the body that I'm in right now? Maybe it was just you were doing something at your work or with your friends or whatever it might be, and you felt this feeling of confidence. If so, that's an example that you didn't need to lose weight in order to feel confident. Because if it was really true that you needed to lose weight in order to feel confident, it would be impossible to feel confident until that weight was lost. But you probably have an example of how you have felt confident. Now, you want to see if you can find another example. What's another example that I can find of how I don't need to lose weight in order to feel confident? You can take a moment and think about that for yourself. And if you find it challenging to come up with another example, you might look outside of yourself. Do I know somebody else in my life who is in a similar body size to me or a larger body size who's confident? And if you can find that, well, that's another example. So It's possible. Just because you haven't experienced it right now doesn't mean that it's not possible. There's lots of things that we don't always experience right now, but we can eventually, right? That it's possible for us. So we're just looking for ways that it is true that you don't need to lose weight in order to feel confident. Okay, you're going to look now and find some genuine examples. I'm going to move through this a little bit more quickly because you can take some time to do this on your own after and explore it more. Once you found all of the examples of that, we're going to look at another turnaround. Another example of a turnaround could be we'll play around with the words a little bit. What if we said instead of I need to lose weight to feel confident, we could say I need to lose shame? Because if you're looking at what is it about the weight that feels bad? It's not the weight itself, it's what the weight means. It's the meaning that's been given to the weight. What is it that you're making the weight mean about yourself? That I'm not good enough, that I'm not disciplined, that I'm unlovable, whatever it may be. So you can swap it out. Is it shame? Is it a different feeling? Swap it out for that and now say, I need to lose that idea that I'm not good enough, that thought, in order to feel confident. How can that be true or even truer than the original statement? So if you were to lose the idea that you were less than or not good enough, or you were to lose the feeling of shame, wouldn't that bring in confidence? I need to lose the idea that I'm not good enough in order to feel confident, because it's that idea that's actually taking away the feeling of confidence. So you can play around with that one. And then another turnaround that we can look at, which is a little bit different, is I need to gain weight in order to feel confident. Now, this one can be a little bit trickier. Let's look at where this could apply. This could apply in a scenario where you're actively suppressing your weight and you know that it's actually not making you feel confident. I know that when I was suppressing my weight, I was doing it in the hopes of feeling confident, but I never actually truly felt confident. So I need to gain weight in order to feel confident. What's an example of how that could be true? Well, I can look at some for me. It would have taken me confidence in order to gain weight. It would have taken some confidence to do that, some courage, which it did. I actually ended up becoming more confident by gaining weight because I was in the process letting go of the ideas that about my body and myself that were keeping me feeling small. So I have more confidence now having gained weight because I finally let myself let go of all of the ways that I was hurting myself, all of the tactics that I was using to keep myself small. I actually opened up to gaining more confidence when I was able to gain weight. It also can take some confidence to gain weight in this culture that, let's be honest, is hell-bent on making everybody as small as possible or only thinking thin is good and fat is bad. It takes a certain level of confidence in order to allow yourself to listen to your body, to let your body do its thing, if that means gaining weight. As we've gone through this process, what have you noticed for yourself? Have you noticed that if the belief I need to lose weight in order to feel confident in the beginning felt really solid and true, has it loosened up a little bit? Have we poked some holes in it? Does it not seem as true as it originally did? That's the power of this work, because here's the thing. When we are feeling stress, upset, it is a signal that we have a belief that we are holding on to and looking at ourselves through and looking at the world through that isn't entirely true. And how we know it is by the feeling. Because if the thought hurts, it's not true. Byron Katie will always say that, and it is a mantra that I have yet to find not to be true. If there is any painful thought, if I'm feeling any stress, 100% I know that I have some thinking in my mind right now that I am seeing the situation and myself in a way that is not true. And if I have the courage to put it to the test, to put it to the work, and I've done this now probably hundreds of times, I've yet to find that what I was originally thinking was true. I always found out that, wow, there's different ways to see this that are actually more supportive. So, something that I want to close off with is that your inner wisdom, which is not in the mind is like a computer, it only has data from the past, but wisdom comes from a different place. It's intelligent, it always comes in the present moment. It's never coming from thinking about the future or thinking about the past. It's right here, right now. And so when we sit in question 4, who would I be without the thought? It's putting us here in the present moment. And that's where we have access to this wisdom. It always feels open. It feels kind. It feels grounded. It feels generous. Those are some words that I would use. I would also say maybe clear. And so it's starting to have this actual experience of these different levels of thought, one coming from the old repetitive part of the mind and the other coming from our deeper wisdom, which I always say comes from the heart. It's something that arises up. So I am sure if you were to write down some thoughts that you have about your body, some thoughts that you are believing to be true that feel stressful, you're going to have a good handful. I invite you to start writing them down. What are the thoughts that I'm believing about myself, about my body that don't feel good, but I'm believing to be true? Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, my body's ugly. Go ahead, just write them all down. You can start to question them. And if you go to thework.com, it's all there. That's Byron Katie's website. I also invite you that if you want, you're welcome to have a session with me where I can facilitate you through this. I've had tons of experience doing it. It can be really helpful to have somebody walk you through this process. So you are always welcome to book a coaching session with me and say, I want to do the work specifically. And here are some of the thoughts that I would like to work on. And I'm happy to do that with you. Right? This is a really powerful process. I hope that you had a little bit of a visceral experience, or that at least it just started to make you think, maybe, just maybe, what I'm thinking isn't entirely true. A reminder that if you're new here and you haven't yet got my free guide to body peace download, I'll link to that below. And I'll also link to my coaching that if you wanted to book a session to do this work together, you're welcome to. Look forward to being with you in the next episode.